All right, so now we are recording, and we'll just, let's see, I'll just give a countdown.
My roots, though.
That's good. So 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. I'm talking with Denise Pereau today, a friend of mine. She's a legend in the hair industry. Everyone on the East Coast knows her, and from Pennsylvania, Delaware, Mid-Atlantic states, New York Fashion Week, all of those good things. But I know you don't like to brag about yourself like that, but a lot of people know who you are and respect you.
Thank you.
For what you've done. Absolutely. I met Denise about 5 years ago. I believe it was in the late 2015. I remember when we were working for a company. I believe you were vice president of that company at that time.
I was actually the chief officer of the global service providers for the company. So my job was to facilitate new membership and guide them and do training and all that. It was a beauty on demand service, beauty on demand services at home.
Yeah. And that was an interesting concept, and we clicked and became friends quickly. And there's a lot of
respect, George. Mutual respect.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the beauty industry, COVID-19, and its effect on the beauty industry. Recently, the state of Georgia, lightened up some of its regulations. They are opening barbershops and salons. And one of the things that I saw was that they're going to require us to wear masks, gloves, a gown, a face shield, and the customer is to wear a face shield as well. And we are to disinfect chairs in the room and all non-porous surfaces in between every single client. And we usually are clean freaks as it is, between our disinfecting. That's and
correct.
Cleanliness is next to godliness in our industry. There's nothing worse than sitting in a chair or being at a station where there's hair and clutter and neck strips all over the floor and just bottle caps and of various products and stuff. We like a nice, clean, non-clutter. Yeah.
And so if your salon looks like that, run.
Yes, exactly. What is your opinion on how they are going to be rolling this out? Now, they haven't done it yet in Pennsylvania. You are in New Jersey.
That's correct.
Give me your opinion on all this.
Well, this is a whole new normal for the industry. And as you said before, we are very well versed in sanitation procedures as it were, because to protect the public, and that's our first job, is to maintain a certain level of cleanliness and certain level of sanitation protocols. So this is presenting quite a conundrum because, first of all, the public has been conditioned through this COVID-19 virus and the epidemic, and what they are doing as far as social distancing, shopping, all the things that they're doing to protect themselves already. So when the salons start opening up during this phase one, the public's conditioned to a certain level of, sanitation that is above and beyond what has been introduced previously. So in my opinion, we have to be consistent. That is the number one key, because people are going to be looking to us to see how we're preparing. We're going to have to be like medical offices. And all those things that the Georgia State Cosmetology Board has set forth as their goals are going to be instituted across the country. And I had a meeting yesterday with several salon owners from our region. And first of all, this is going to end up costing a tremendous amount of money, compounded by the fact that many people, myself included, have not had any kind of color services while we're isolated. So you're going to have people with 2 and 3 inch roots coming back into the salon for services. That in itself is going to be an upcharge because it's going to take people a lot longer to process these types of color corrections, if you will. There's people that are doing box colors. There's all these other things. And that is separate from the sanitation issue. But I'm just talking about cost first. It's going to be very costly. We're going to have stocks of masks in case people come in with a mask. It's going to be mandatory that everybody wears a mask, preferably the masks that have the little bit of elastic around the ears, because you can't cut or color. We may have to dispose of the mask that's used during a color process. So that's going to require a second mask. The stylists, the barbers, they're all going to have to be wearing masks. Every set of implements, brushes, tools is going to have to be sanitized between each customer in view of the customer, preferably, if possible, so that we can keep educating the clients as we're working. So then there's going to have to be capes, disposable capes. There's going to be the whole station is going to have to be wiped down in between clients. And previously that this is a new protocol. It's going to take time. Now, there's also been some suggestions now. You're not going to be allowed to congregate in a salon. It's going to be predicated on split shifts. So how do you incorporate all your staff back into the workforce? You're going to have an early shift. Then we're going to have to break in the middle of the day, sanitize the entire facility, bring in the second shift, sanitize again at night. And they're saying maybe the clients should be outside in their cars and, be called in as soon as a guest leaves. So it's going to be a whole different type of management. And if you consider the salon that I work in, there's 110 people on staff. It's about 12,000 square feet of salon and spa. So we put through probably about 1,000 clients a week through the salon. Now you have an 8-week hiatus right now. That's almost 8,000 appointments, during that course. So all those people who come in on a regular basis are going to have to be rescheduled. So the owners are going to have to pay the receptionist to reschedule all those appointments. And now the governor comes in and says, hey, we're not going to open up for another 3 weeks. So now the salon owners are going to have to pay those receptionists again to reschedule those appointments. And then you have to, a lot of people are using Venmo, PayPal, paid credit card charges before they come into the salon. That's going to be another suggestion, so we can limit the cash transactions. Probably no cash is going to be in the salons. It's really going to be quite interesting to see how this is going to roll out. And then, a lot of salon owners have incorporated a spa into their business. People are used to getting facials, waxing. That is going to be really interesting to see how that rolls out too. And I think that's going to be predicated on who books an appointment. Would you want to be the first person to jump on a massage table at this point after I've been conditioned to be 6 feet away from each other? I don't know. I mean, the whole industry is on its knees right now. I think that's,
in between clients, there's times where the receptionist, our administrator, she'll come in and say, George, your next client is here. In my prepping for that client, I will run out to the waiting room and shake a hand and say, hey, good to see you. I'll be right with you. I'm sweeping up first. So I kind of signal to them that I want them to be in a nice, clean room. I think it makes the clientele and the guests just feel better that they're walking into a cleaner room. So now it's not going to be, I'm sweeping up, I'll be right with you. It's going to be, I am sanitizing and disinfecting the room and I will be with you. Now, of course, with our tools, the tools that we sanitize, the directions say it has to be immersed for 10 minutes. So do we build that into our schedules, or do we have 2 or 3 sets of different tools? Because you can't just dip your scissors or your comb into the blue liquid and, and be ready 1 minute later.
This is another question that we talked about, because most barbers and stylists have several different pairs of scissors to accomplish different techniques.
Yeah.
But there are some that don't. For the general public, I don't think they realize how much these tools cost. Anywhere from $250 to custom shears, which could be $2,000. They have
Easily.
a mold. You can have everything custom designed. That in itself is an expense that's going to be passed on to the individual operators, because everybody's responsible for their own equipment. I believe, yes, it's going to be, the sanitation process is going to take place between client services while they're being shampooed. In a barbershop, you don't shampoo every person in a barbershop necessarily. Some people want that, but not everybody does it. So it'll be up to the salon or barbershop owner as to how that's going to roll out too. It depends on how many clients you're servicing during the day. A lot of it is predicated on, individual salons and how they function and how they schedule.
What will we do? Will we pass this on as a surcharge? Because if you think about it,
that's another good
mask, to have the gown, the face mask, we're going to be going through not only the immersion type of disinfectants, but disinfecting wipes and sprays and so forth. And that's for every client. And when you think about it, there's 8 to 10, if you're an 8 to 10 client type of stylist or barber per day, per shift, whatever, that's 8 to 10 or more completely different sets of garb that we have to put on and dispose of in a, what do they call it? The red bags, like in hospitals, that type of infectious waste kind of stuff. You're not just throwing this stuff out. This is another thing,
right? The salons are going to turn into laundromats. Now, in our salon, we have, our what do you call it? The domestic engineers, or I forget what they refer themselves to. I'm sorry. But we have 4 washing machines that are going all day long, industrial size washing machines. We're probably going to have to add another. And the service charge discussion is pretty hot because, first of all, the salons have been closed or will be closed for 8 to 10 weeks. I mean, they're talking about maybe June 1st starting to open. Some people are more optimistic. They're saying maybe May 15th. So you're 100% right. These items are going to have to be washed. And how many people have the space to install their own washers and dryers? Are they going, usually everything's collected and washed at the end of the day, taken to a laundromat, even twice a week. It depends on what circumstance you're in. But the service charge is probably going to be passed on to the client. There's going to be a surcharge. So I think clients should be prepared for that. And the discussion was back and forth because a lot of people have been out of work for a really long time. Do they have enough money to come in and get their haircuts? Is it turning into a luxury, service? I don't think that that's true. I think that's an essential service. You need to look good and feel good. So, people are going to want to come in and get their services, but $3 to $5 is the price range. In New York, they're charging 10 to 20 because of the cost there. And that notwithstanding, there's also the issue that hospitals can't get the sanitation materials that they need. How are we going to get all the masks, all the gloves, all the things that has been suggested by Georgia's state board. We also talked, one of the salon owners has a medical spa in their salon situation. And the doctor that runs that particular spa, the med spa, said that it would be better for people to wash their hands between each service and have the guests wash their hands as well, instead of using gloves. Because when you're using gloves, they're it makes your service clumsy, unless you're doing color, and then you need to protect your hands from the chemicals. But when you're wielding shears and razors, it's very difficult and cumbersome to be working with gloves. So I think it makes more sense for everyone to be washing their hands between services. And you have your client wash their hands as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. One stylist friend of mine said she doesn't think that it's going to be, there's not going to be as much of a rush for bundled services as there was before. She says many women are using box color now, so they're not going to, like, their first post COVID-19 service is not going to be the $250 cut and color and highlight. It's going to be the $50, $60 haircut, because she felt that people are getting a taste of doing their own grooming. What are your thoughts?
People are getting used to disaster.
Yeah,
and you cannot compete with a professional application compared to a box application. And okay, at least that's a temporary save. But I think most importantly, women are going to want to get their hair color first.
Yeah.
And they were also talking about some have suggested that there be no blow drying, because the pathogens are airborne. So someone could come into the salon, get their hair cut, get their hair colored, and leave. But then there's a lot of businesses, like in the area where I live and work. I would say 50% of our bookings are blow dries, because people don't know how to do their own hair, and they come in weekly. Some women twice a week to get their hair blown dry. I have clients that have never washed their own hair since they're teenagers, since they got married. They go to the salon religiously. That's their lifestyle. I don't know if I can function if I couldn't wash my own hair. But there's some people that live like that, and thank God for them, because it supports the salon economy. But they're talking about not even blow drying hair to limit the, contamination in the salon. I mean, there's a lot of things that are up for discussion.
Hospitals, many hospitals, especially the ICU rooms, have what they call negative pressure, where the vents pull the air out of the room rather than blowing in, like what you have in your house and what I have in my house.
And like on airplanes.
Yeah, because of the droplet transmission and the mist transmission. I don't know any salons that have negative pressure. They heat and cool through vents that blow out, not
the forced air heating and air conditioning. Yes, that's correct.
I'm wondering if
who has the money right now to put those types of installation to install that type of an air filtration system. Our main goal in a salon environment is to move the air out and bring fresh air in, so that people are, the air is constantly recirculated. Again, that's, with airborne pathogens, that's a really good point to make. In fact, I'm going to make a note about that, because that would be really helpful if that situation could be mitigated by the installation of new systems.
Exhaust fans.
Pardon?
Like an exhaust fan of some type.
Yeah, even I've seen some systems that you can put in your homes that eliminate the microbial. They're antibacterial. They help to eliminate virus pathogens. So maybe something in a salon would be a good idea. I think that I'm going to bring that up at the next meeting.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, George, that we're living in this through this pandemic, we never thought, we've never seen anything like this. We've never experienced anything like this, but at the same time, we have the opportunity to make a positive impact on how we live and what we're doing. And that goes to the salon industry as well. And people, this was my point too. Like I said earlier, I think that people are conditioned. And now's the time that you can initiate all these new ideas in your business that you've been wanting to do for a long time, because people are open to new ideas. They're waiting for us to be leaders. So leaders in how we work, leaders in how we cleanse our salons and prepare for them to be in there to ensure their safety. There's so many things that we can do. Like a lot of salons have problems with inventory control. Now's the time while your staff is open to new suggestions where you can initiate inventory control. I think, and I've owned 3 salons during the course of my career. At this time, it's so important to cut down on expenses. I think it might be a good idea to assign or issue towels, your developers for color, your basic items, and give everybody a bundle of these items that they have to maintain and control. You would reduce waste immediately. If somebody tried to walk out with one of your towels, you would kill them.
Yeah, right? Rather than just a free-for-all, right? Where just there's the color bar and it's just kind of willy-nilly.
And the general public doesn't know how expensive it is to run a business and to have the top lines, the color lines, the conditioners, the shampoos and everything, your back bar expenses. They're cost prohibitive and in normal times. So I think at this time, I think the staff would be receptive to that. Hey, I got my own bundle of towels. I've got, 50 towels. I'm responsible for taking them home and washing them. I'm responsible for, making sure that nobody walks out with them. And I think something like that could reduce, your those types of expenses. What do you call it? Waste management, whatever you want to call it. Make people responsible now. So it would help the salon owners a lot, I think.
What about assistants? When I have an assistants will do everything from ring somebody out at the register to maybe sweep up. Do you think having a designated assistant, just like a doctor would have an assistant, would this be important? Or are we, the frontline stylists and barbers, going to be sweeping and disinfecting and doing all that in between clientele? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, this is all based on the owner's directives. So if your establishment is used to having assistants help the staff, and there's training programs where assistants are receiving training, I think that will be continued to be the norm. Most certainly, if we're not going to be booking every 15 minutes in a salon, like some of us book every 15 minutes and then we have a 15-minute break on the hour. Some people book one client an hour. Some people book a half an hour. Those parameters are going to change dramatically because you're not going to be allowed to have as many people in the salon as before. So will you need as many assistants? Probably not. But I can't imagine a master colorist working all day without an assistant, and they're heavy hitters and they're booking all day. You're going to be working split shifts. Your schedule is going to change most assuredly. That's predicated on the owner's vision of how they want to roll out phase one. We were also talking about the front desk situation, which, there we're going to need possibly a greeter that can escort the clients back, make sure everything's sanitized, the door handles, the bathrooms, everything is going to have to be sanitized. It's not just the stations, it's the entire salon. Coffee bars, pardon me, coffee bars are probably going to no longer exist. Maybe there'll be bottled water available. Magazines will no longer be available. And I
Right.
think that that's fine because everybody has a phone and you could just pull up things on Pinterest and all these different sites for examples of men's hair cutting and for color suggestions and all that. I think everything's going to be digital. So that whole front lobby experience is going to change, if you will. The receptionists are, of course, going to have to be sanitizing computer keyboards. Everything is going to be strictly monitored. And
You
again, one of the salon owners yesterday was like, consistency is the key. Um, so and we're all going to be trying to do the same thing. It's going to be a standardization across the board for all the salon owners. So everybody's doing exactly the same thing. And just like doctors, they all have the same protocols. So that is going to shake down in the industry. And I think that that's a great thing instead of, oh, I do this, they do that, a standardization across the board is going to be really important.
like that. I really like that, Denise. In a in the climate right now where there's a lot of fear mongering, you just added a little point of hope there. That standardization is going to be a positive thing for us.
Absolutely. It's uplifting the level of professionalism. I was reading, well, I saw an interview that Anderson Cooper did with a woman from Georgia who was refusing to open up her salon because, she's quite honestly frightened and doesn't believe that it's the time to do that as a business owner. And one of the things that annoys me is they refer to us refer to salon owners as the beauty parlors and the massage parlors. I'm like, can you please ditch the Stone Age terminology?
Yeah.
It just conjures up such negative imaging. And, I would, whatever you like to be called, a color technician, a master colorist, a master barber, this years of education and commitment to your craft. And it just is so annoying. And you're 100% right. It's a positive step to consider standardization across the industry. And in our meeting yesterday too, each state is going to issue its own directives. And I think that the Georgia State Board of Cosmetology directives were very thorough, and they were very considerate to both the guests coming into the salon, or clients, if you will, and the staff members, because the first line of defense is protecting the public. Also, there's going to probably be digital thermometers at the front desk in most salons, and everybody that comes in is going to have their temperature taken. I mean, let's face it, testing isn't complete yet. We don't know who's carrying the pathogens. We don't know who's asymptomatic. We don't know anything, and we're the only profession besides the medical profession that has a license to touch. So they're definitely going to. Most of the salon owners that were on the call yesterday were in agreement, and the Georgia State Board of Cosmetology also suggested it, that we have the digital thermometers at the front door and everybody gets their temperature taken. And if you're sick, you can't come in.
The landscape is changing. I remember how HIV changed the industry. I remember when we went from having straight razors as barbers that you just dip, you clean them, you dip them, that's it, to actually having razors where you pull out a blade, dispose of it in a infectious waste red container, disinfect it, and then put a new blade in, put that back in, and you never use the same blade from person to person to person. Every person has a
That's correct.
because of the pathogens and so forth. So I remember how that health crisis literally changed the industry for me. You touched on one of the three areas that I wanted to ask you about, and that was the greeting area, the reception area, and what the landscape. When I look at the map of a salon, I was going to ask you about how is the greeting reception area going to change? You mentioned that. How is the back bar going to change, and how is the wash bowl area going to change?
Well, there again, everybody's going to be required to wear masks. The client and the service provider. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to roll out yet. You have to get your hair shampooed. Some people were suggesting maybe they come in with their hair shampooed already. But yes, if you're getting hair color, you still need to get your hair cut. Hair washed following that procedure. So, staggering stations is going to be a big deal. So not only are we going to have split shifts, but we're going to have half staff working. So there's going to be one station, and there's going to be a station in between it, and then another station and a station in between it to keep that social distancing. Now, a lot of the salons, have like hallway setups where, you have chairs on either side. You're back to back. You're back to back with other operators. So they're thinking of staggering that. So that takes out another chair, every couple of feet. So every 6 feet. So you're going to have a chair here, a chair here, a chair here, a chair here, so that people aren't bumping up back to one another. The shampoo chairs, I think there's 14 shampoo chairs in our salon, something like that. And they're going all day long when we're full staffed. So that's probably going to shift to every other station. I would imagine that's what's going to be the norm there. It's really a frightening situation, because after being closed for 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, and then you're coming back with split shifts with half staff. I mean, how are you going to meet your bills? And the loans that are being given, they're not really to help the salon owners. They're there to help the state get everybody off unemployment. It's a 75-25 split, and they want you have 8 weeks to use it, and they want you to get everybody all back on payroll and off of unemployment, and then 25% can go to your bills, your rent, and blah blah. So there's a lot of things that are happening when especially whether you have a small salon or a large salon or a large barbershop or a small barbershop. This has been quite taxing, and everybody's like trying to renegotiate leases, and it's really
think about the layout of many salons where the stations are on the walls. And I know in Pennsylvania you have to have 4 feet in between chair centers. Now that's got to be 6 feet. That's the first thing. The other thing is there's some stations that are kind of like that. There's a mirror on this side and a mirror on this side, and you have kind of the clients facing each other, so to speak. They are more like 6 feet apart than the walled stations. I'm wondering how that's going to work for a lot of people. I mean, I know salons and barbershops that are in strip centers, they just use one wall for all their stations.
It's like a hallway setup, or like the railroad apartments in New York, where it's like one hallway and everything's right down that wall, like you said.
Yeah.
So there you go. You have maybe 7 or 8 stations there, and you're going to be using 4 stations in a split shift. Then you're going to have to see, first of all, you're going to want your heavy hitters to be booked first, the people that are bringing in you the most money. And then how are these kids that are just coming out of school, that are starting, have passed their, assistant training programs, apprenticeship programs, I should say, and they're just starting to build a book. How are they going to survive? You can't put them on the payroll for 8 weeks and then they got to reapply.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult.
Well, you gave a lot of great answers and posed a lot of really interesting questions. And I suppose if you're willing, join me again after we reopen the industry.
Of course.
we'll talk about it.
After we do phase one, I may not even be working.
Yeah, exactly. So after the rollout starts, I think it might be because right now it's all theory. We're talking about shifts and staggering stations and so forth. How is that actually going to flesh out? So I think our next conversation will be about that. How can people find you, Denise?
I have an Instagram account at D Pereau, Pereau. That's where I post most of my beauty, my pictures from my work. I'm a session artist. I've been involved in the industry for many, many years. I think that's probably the best place. I'm a TV host on Renaissance Living, RVN TV, which is the streaming network. My show is on 24/7. Just go to rvntv.tv, and I'm in the lifestyle section. So you just scroll down and click on Renaissance Living after you see the lifestyle bar. So you can see my shows there. And I also cook and I garden. I do so much. I always say you have one life to live. You better grab it, by the cunis and just run with it, because you're going to die soon. Everybody's going to exit this earth. And I was always afraid that my tombstone would say she did nothing with her life. So I'm like one of those overachievers.
And that's obvious to all, and we're all thankful for that. You truly are a Renaissance woman. So.
Oh, thanks, George. And so nice to talk to you. Thank you. I really appreciate you seeking me out for this conversation, because, like you, this is my passion. And it's been really great talking to you. And look forward to the next conversation after we roll out with phase one.
Sounds great. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. Take care.